What if I told you the scariest part of this story isn't the murder? It's the book. A children's book about grief, written by a mother for her 3 little boys to help them cope with losing their father. She wrote it herself. She read it on local television, smiling, talking about healing. What she didn't mention is that she's the one who killed him.
My kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year.
And to make sense and process, I'm sure.
This is the story of Kouri Richins, the real estate agent they later call the Cocktail Cookbook Killer. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how a mother, a Moscow mule, and a bedtime story about grief ended in one of the most disturbing murder convictions Utah has ever seen. Let's go back to March 3rd, 2022, a quiet home outside Park City, Utah. Kouri Richins had just closed on a property for her house flipping business, a small win worth celebrating. So that night, she made her husband Eric a drink, a Moscow mule. She brought it to their bedroom. He drank it in bed, took a THC gummy, and settled in for the night. Kouri would later say she went to comfort one of their sons after a nightmare and fell asleep in his room. She said she didn't check on Eric again until the middle of the night. At 3:22 a.m., she called 911. Eric Richins, 39 years old, a father of 3, a man with no history of drug abuse, was cold, unresponsive, gone. The official cause of death? An overdose of illicit fentanyl. Not a small amount either, nearly 5 times what's considered lethal. For a man who had never touched hard drugs in his life? So investigators started asking questions, and almost immediately, Kouri's story started falling apart. She told police her phone had been charging in the bedroom the whole time she was comforting her son. But phone records told a different story. Messages sent, messages deleted, during the exact window her husband was dying, 20 feet away. And this wasn't the first close call Eric had survived. Weeks earlier, Valentine's Day 2022, Eric had eaten a sandwich Kouri made him and broken out in hives, gasping, reaching for his son's EpiPen. He told a friend afterward that he thought his wife was trying to poison him. Nobody believed him. Yet. Investigators also learned about a trip to Greece years earlier, where Eric had become violently, mysteriously ill after drinking something Kouri handed him. A pattern. A cold, deliberate pattern. So, why? Why would a mother of 3 do this to the father of her children? Follow the money. Kouri was drowning in debt, millions of dollars of it. And unbeknownst to her, Eric had quietly rewritten his will years earlier, cutting her out completely after learning some of that debt had been racked up in his name without his knowledge. She didn't know that. She still believed she stood to collect on multiple life insurance policies she'd taken out on her husband. Policies worth close to $2 million. And she wasn't just planning a payout. She was planning a new life with another man. Someone she'd been seeing for years. Someone she dreamed of a future with. Divorce would have cost her everything. His money, his home, maybe even custody of their boys. But if Eric simply disappeared, she'd keep it all. Investigators dug into her phone and found searches that would make anyone's blood run cold. What is a lethal dose of fentanyl? And chillingly, luxury prisons for the wealthy in the United States. Someone was already planning for what came after. Then came the housekeeper, a woman named Carmen Lauber, testified that Kouri had asked her 4 separate times to help her obtain drugs, telling her they were for an investor with a back injury. The 3rd time, Kouri didn't ask for painkillers anymore. She asked for something stronger. Prosecutors say she used a chilling nickname for it, a reference to the drug that killed a famous pop star decades earlier. That drug was fentanyl. Weeks later, Eric Richins was dead, At trial, the lead prosecutor put it bluntly. He said the amount of fentanyl in Eric's system showed Kouri didn't just want him dead. She wanted him, in his words, good and dead. Now here's the part that turned this from a tragic case into a national headline. About a year after Eric's death, while she was still a free woman, still unindicted, Kouri Richins published a children's book. Called Are You With Me? It followed a young boy learning to cope with the loss of his father. She went on local morning shows, smiling, composed, telling hosts the book helped her and her sons process an unexpected tragedy. Unexpected. That was her word. 16 months later, in May of 2023, she was arrested for his murder. The trial finally began in February 2026, nearly 4 years after Eric died. 13 days of testimony, 40 witnesses, and Kouri Richins never took the stand. Her defense never called a single witness. Their entire strategy? Convince the jury there simply wasn't enough proof. It didn't work. On March 16th, 2026, after just 3 hours of deliberation, the jury came back.
We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree that the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 1 beyond a reasonable doubt.
Guilty. Aggravated murder, attempted murder, insurance fraud, forgery. Every single count. Kouri Richins bowed her head, said nothing. But the most gutting moment of this entire case came 2 months later at sentencing. Because it wasn't prosecutors who spoke loudest in that courtroom. It was her own children. The Richins boys, 9, 7, and 5 years old when their father died, submitted statements for the judge. One of them wrote that he was afraid, that if his mother were ever released, she would come for him, for his brothers, for what was left of his family. Judge Richard Mrazek called Kouri Richins simply too dangerous to ever be free. On May 13th, 2026, Eric Richins' birthday, Kouri Richins was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Before she was taken away, she spoke to her sons directly one final time, told them that when they were ready, she'd be there. Her lawyers say they plan to appeal. But for now, 3 little boys are growing up without their father and without their mother, both taken by the same Moscow mule. So here's the question this case leaves behind. How many warning signs does someone have to survive before anyone believes them? Eric Richins survived a poisoned sandwich. He survived a mysterious illness in Greece. He told a friend out loud that he thought his wife was trying to kill him. And 3 weeks later, she finished what she started. If this case chilled you the way it chilled me, hit subscribe, because we cover cases exactly like this every single week. And let me know in the comments, do you think Kouri Richins will ever admit what she did? I don't think we'll ever hear it. But I'd love to know what you think.